I had just moved into my first apartment, excited to start my sophomore year at university. I wasn't sure how living with a roommate would go, but when I met Emily, my new flatmate, I felt relieved. She seemed friendly, easy to talk to, and gave off a welcoming vibe. It was a small, somewhat old apartment, but it was perfect for 2 students. She'd been living there for a while, so I figured she'd be able to show me the ropes. At first, everything was normal. We'd chat over coffee, go over assignments together, and hang out occasionally. But as the days went by, I started noticing strange things. One night, I was studying in the living room when I heard the distinct sound of footsteps coming from Emily's room. I figured she was just getting up to grab something, so I didn't think much of it. But when I checked later, Emily was fast asleep in her bed, her door wide open. I shrugged it off as a trick of my mind. Then things started to get weirder. One morning I found my favorite book in the kitchen, far from where I'd left it on my desk. Emily was the only other person in the apartment, but when I asked her, she just smiled and said she hadn't touched it. The same thing happened with my headphones, and then a mug that I always kept on the counter. A few nights later, I woke up to a cold spot in the living room. The chill was so intense, it felt like someone had opened the freezer door. When I glanced around, Emily was standing by the window, staring outside with a blank expression. I called out to her, but she didn't respond. After a few minutes, she slowly turned around and went back to her room without saying a word. I didn't know what to make of it, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The final straw came one evening when I decided to stay up late to finish an assignment. I heard faint whispers coming from the hallway outside my door. Thinking it was Emily talking to someone, I got up to investigate. But when I opened the door, there was no one in the hallway. I checked Emily's room. She was sitting on her bed, eyes wide open, staring straight ahead. "Emily?" I whispered, worried. She didn't respond. I took a step forward, calling her name again. She finally looked at me, her eyes empty, almost lifeless. "I'm not your roommate," she whispered, her voice chillingly cold. "I haven't been for a long time." My heart raced. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't sharing an apartment with Emily. I was living with her ghost. The footsteps, the cold spots, the moving objects. It all made sense now. I had been unknowingly living with a spirit, trapped in the apartment, unable to move on. I packed my things and moved out that night, leaving the eerie presence behind. To this day, I still wonder whether Emily's ghost is still there, haunting that old apartment, waiting for the next unsuspecting student to move in.